because it truly is mind, body, and spirit. It's not just going to tournaments and winning trophies. It's more about the internal and the journey that each one of us has through our martial arts life.
Episode 1, What is the Martial Way Network?
I'm Vashon.
And I'm Ron.
And this is the Martial Way Network. I think what a lot of people want to know is, why did we start the Martial Way Network?
Well, I think we wanted to differentiate the traditional martial arts from sport. And I think this is important that it be done. The traditional martial arts have a particular program, and they have stuck with this program since the foundation of their art, or pretty close to that. Where sport has moved off into the arena of tournaments, and even though some of these sports schools claim to be a traditional martial art, they aren't. There are some that are. I want to say that. I think it's important too that people know, if you want to do sports, this is perfectly fine. There's no problem with doing the sport arts.
Yeah.
And there's no problem doing the traditional arts. We just need to say that they're different and they're separate.
That's great. My aspect from starting the Martial Way Network is I really enjoy talking with other martial artists that have a passion for the classic arts, you know, the old Okinawan style, Japanese style, or even wushu, kung fu, Chinese style martial arts. And as your background has, and we'll get into backgrounds in a bit, is that background of traditional Taekwondo, which a lot of people may not even know exist out there. So I like the Martial Way Network, and one of the reasons that I wanted to do this with my husband is because it's such a passion of ours to share the classic arts and all that goes with it, because it truly is mind, body, and spirit. It's not just going to tournaments and winning trophies. It's more about the internal and the journey that each one of us has through our martial arts life.
That's good. That's true.
Yeah. So I alluded a little bit to our background, and so tell me a little bit about you. Where did you start in your martial arts journey?
Okay, I'm kind of reticent to discuss this. I really don't like to, but I started off in Taekwondo. Now, I started off in traditional Taekwondo, the art that the Korean Army studied. And this is important because this isn't the same as sport. Sport came about when Taekwondo was taken away and turned into the national sport. And from that time on, Taekwondo has been a sport. My second art is Shurite. I like Shurite because it is truly traditional. And the techniques, the toei that's there, it all functions well. But it isn't encumbered by some of the newer modern techniques that come about. Now in Taekwondo, I did have self-defense against modern weapons, and that was important there. I also have a belt ranking in Shorin-ryu. I'm a 9th Dan there, and I teach that, and it's become pretty much our base art, although I prefer Shurite. We've been teaching that for a number of years here. I taught in Minnesota for a while, a long time as a matter of fact, and then I moved down to Missouri here, and we started teaching the Shorin-ryu. I also have a 3rd degree black in Kyokushinkai. She outranks me. So in that case, we have a pretty good fit, because we do have a varied background and degrees.
Sure. And my background is I started in Kyushiken. That's where I got my first black belt. And through that system, I actually met this fella through a workshop, a seminar that I went to for the martial arts. And we became friends, and from there we later ended up developing a relationship and starting our own Shorin-ryu school here in Missouri. So it's funny how life twists and turns.
First looker, different art.
Yes, indeed. So as far as my background, Kyushuken, I hold a fifth dan in that, and then in Shorin-ryu, I currently hold a fifth dan in that as well. And one of the things you may ask, because I know there's a lot of traditionalists out there who say, why do you study so many arts? Just stay with one, master one. And I think I'd like you to respond on that. Why do we believe in studying multiple arts?
Well, I studied multiple arts because no art knows everything, and it covers a certain scope. The Taekwondo gave me an excellent kicking background, and this was a very super start to the martial arts. When we went into Shurate had some locks and throwings that weren't even part of Taekwondo. When we studied Kyushuken-kai, that had some very hard karate techniques that Shorin-ryu doesn't have, and it's a little harder than the Shurate. Now, Shorin-ryu is a little bit softer. It has a lot of white crane influence that none of those other arts have, and that puts some circularity back into the techniques. Now, you study one here, one there, and you think, how do you keep them straight? Well, I took separate notes. I pigeonholed those in my brain. And they don't cross. But if I have a confrontation and I need them, they are there and they are available, and they'll come forth if I need them.
Certainly.
So we always teach from notes. We always teach from our curriculum, and I don't get the two confused. 3, 4 confused.
That's true. And for me, one of the reasons that I changed, well, I shouldn't say changed, I added to my art was in Kyushuken-kai, we didn't have the ground fighting, the techniques there, at least not to the extent that we do in our Shorin-ryu system. And that has really added to my repertoire of different martial arts, as well as the kabuto, the weapons that you have taught me, and I've learned also through other seminars and workshops that we've attended. What inspires you?
Well, what inspires me most of all is just teaching. I like teaching the art. I like teaching the basics and understanding to students so that they have a complete understanding of the art we teach. How about you?
Well, I also love teaching, but I tell you what really inspires me is people like Keiko Fukuda. It really inspires me. She passed on in 2013, and she was a grandmaster judoka, judo instructor, and one of the master of Higuro Kano. That was one of his students, his master students, and as far as I know, the highest ranking female student. And she was 99 years old when she passed on, and I believe she was teaching all the way up to her last days. That is so inspiring to me to know that the arts can be a lifetime art. And that's what I love about the martial arts, is that it's a lifetime sport that not only can you do it forever, but it helps to improve you throughout your life and helps you get centered and have balance. Yeah. So what's the number one reason that most people fail to achieve black belt?
I knew that question before I even heard the end of it. The number one reason. I think there are a few reasons. Number one, when they start at white belt, it isn't what they wanted. It isn't what they thought it was. Now, in the traditional martial arts, some people are looking for the faster road, and they want to go the sport art, and that's fine. In the traditional arts, it takes a long time. The second area is about green belt area, halfway through your system. And people peel off then because they can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And the last big point where we lose people is at black belt.
That's true.
Got and achieved the goal, they have the belt, and out the door they go. That's all they wanted, and that's okay. You know, nobody forces them to stay on, and they got exactly what they chose.
That's so true. Here's a funny one. What are some myths about you that are not true?
Oh, they're not true. Miss, I never lose my cell phone. That's one big myth.
One time I found it on the road to the mailbox. This is funny. We live kind of out in the country, and we have two sons, and we were driving home. I'd picked them up from school, got the mail, and in the road we saw something there. And my youngest son got out, and he says, "There's a cell phone in the middle of the road." And he picked it up, and he goes, "I think this is Ron's." And sure enough, it was Ron's phone. He had left it, it's about a half mile.
No, my cell phone has legs. It goes places without my permission. That's all.
So what's something you wish that all martial artists knew or taught to their students?
There's only two things. Number one, basics. There's nothing more important than basics. If you build your art on a sloppy basics, you're building on quicksand, and it's not going to be good. The second thing, and it's the hardest thing to get students to do, is to pay attention to the details. Mm-hmm. This is important. It is the details that make certain techniques work, and it may be a little detail, but that little detail is the defining portion of that technique. And without it, it doesn't work. How about you?
For me, one thing that I wish everybody taught was the respect aspect of the martial arts. I'm not gonna know the exact quote, but I'll post it when we post this live. And it has to do with Master Funakoshi and how he would not even teach his own child if he did not show the respect to others that are necessary to learn an art that could potentially harm another human being. So when I see someone who doesn't want to bow or doesn't want to show respect towards others in the class, to me that's somebody that needs to be taught the basics before they're shown anything else. Taught the basics of self-respect and courtesy, because without that you really are just creating a system of bullies, and I don't think that that's good. And the second thing is how to lose that ego. I think so often in our arts there are so many that build or come into the art even with ego, and by ego that's I'm all that. I have a lot of training, or I wear a certain rank, and therefore I am. And in my opinion, I don't think that has a place in the art. The greatest martial artists that I've seen always treat everyone with the same respect that they would, at the lowest rank to the highest rank, they would treat them equally. And I think that to me is what I'd love to see carried through all the arts.
Yeah. There is Mushin, and I believe the term is Mugo, which means without ego. I'm not quite sure of that term, but it's pretty close to that. The other thing, as you were talking about respect, is humility. Mm-hmm. I see too many martial artists that man, they're so high above everybody else, and their ego is just busting out of them. And I just sit there and watch them walk by, and wow, what don't you know? I mean, if you got that kind of ego, you don't know a lot, really.
That's
it's
true.
Not really part of the martial arts. So humility is extremely important.
Yeah, it is. And I think, you have taught me a lot about humility, because you've taken so many arts and you have such a high rank in, Shorin-ryu and many others, but every time you started new, you were willing to strap on a white belt.
Every time.
And that's such a gift. I mean, there's so few that are willing to start from the beginning once they've achieved status.
Yeah, you got that black belt, and then you walk into the next class and you strap that white belt on. That's extremely important.
For those of you that are listening to this, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up, because we want to share with you that we're going to be having interviews of these martial artists and other things, But in order to get access to that, you need to visit us online at marshallwaynetwork.tv. You can sign up there, you can get access to our blogs, you can also get access to updates on our podcast. And we hope to see you there.
Yep.
Thank you.
See you later.